Welcome back. We're going to continue talking about volume of three-dimensional shapes. We looked at prisms in the last video, and today we're going to be looking at pyramids. So pyramids are a little different than prisms in that they only have one base, and then the faces, the sides, come to a point at the top called the vertex. We're going to focus on rectangular and triangular pyramids today. Although cones technically would use the same formula and would fit into that pyramid category. So it's really important that we notice when we're looking at our pyramid the height. And the height we can see goes down from the vertex into the middle of our shape. So you'll notice that that's different than when we were doing surface area. So we want to be looking for that right angle that is in the center inside the shape. That's going to be important when we're finding volume. So our volume formula is going to be very similar to that of our prism. We're going to start by finding the area of the base, and we're going to multiply that by the height. So we'll notice that half of the formula is identical to that of the prism. But then we have this little 1/3. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky in that the amount that a pyramid can hold is 1/3 the amount of a prism. And I'm actually going to post a video into Classroom also that will show us doing a little experiment where we're physically filling up two different pyramid and a prism that have the same base, and we'll see where that 1/3 comes from. So we're going to go ahead and practice a couple problems, but again, this is going to be our formula for all of our pyramids. Volume equals 1/3 area of the base. Remember, the capital B means to find the area of the base times the height. So here's our first example. Okay, so here's the first pyramid we're going to look at. And when we're looking at pyramids, sometimes they can look a little funny in the image. So we always want to start by identifying the base shape. For a pyramid, it's really simple. It's just the side that is on the bottom. So if we're looking at here, this would be our base shape. And we notice that our base shape is a triangle. Now that's really important. And because when we solve for capital B, we want to use our triangle formula. So let's remind everybody, we find the area of a triangle by doing 1/2 base of the triangle times height of the triangle. Now this is where we really need to focus just on the green triangle. So I'm going to actually not even look at anything that is not the triangle. So that's why I'm kind of scribbling over it so that way we don't even look at or use any of those numbers. We don't want to be confused. So I'm just right now focusing on that triangle. So when I'm looking at a triangle, again, I'm looking for the right angle in the triangle, which I have right here. So that tells me the base of my triangle is 4. The height of my triangle is 7. So I have the base area is 1/2 times 4 times 7. So half of 4 is 2, and 2 times 7 would be 14. So that's the number that I'm going to plug in for capital B. So now we're going to continue on, and we're going to plug that into our formula and continue multiplying. So now I've got volume equals 1/3 times my base area I just found to be 14. And then height, this is the height of the pyramid. So this is where I go from my vertex at the top, and I'm looking for that line that goes straight down into the middle, and that height is 6. So times 6. Now when I'm multiplying this and I have the 1/3, it gets a little tricky because 1/3 we know in decimal form is a repeating decimal. So I always try to multiply 1/3 times if either of the numbers are a factor of 3. That makes it really, really easy for me. So I would do the 1/3 times 6 first, which would be 2. And then I have 14 times 2 is 28. And again, we're in cubic units. Now, if I didn't do that by multiplying the 1/3 and the 6th, and I tried to use decimal form, I would have gotten a really yucky decimal here, and so there would have been rounding error. So that's why we always want to make sure that we're not converting repeating decimals into fractions into repeating decimals, because we'll have rounding error, which we don't want. We want as precise of an answer as possible. Okay, let's go ahead and try another example. And we're not going to look at any cones today. We're just going to focus on our rectangular prisms and our triangular prisms. So let's do another triangular prism. So here we go. Okay, so here's our next prism. And again, the first thing we always want to do is we want to find the base shape. That's just the shape that is actually on the bottom. Think of the side that's touching the table if this were to be laying on a table. So this would be, again, that triangle shape. And again, just to help us out, I'm going to kind of cover up everything that is not the yellow triangle, just so we can really, really focus on the triangle at first. So I'm going to start by just looking at the area of this triangle. And remember my triangle formula, 1/2 base times height. So I'm looking for that right angle, which I see right here. So my base is 5 and my height is 7. So I have 1/2 5 times 7. And half of 5 is 2.5. And 2.5 times 7 is 17.5. So remember, that's just the area of that triangle down there. Now we're going to plug that into our pyramid formula and continue solving. So my pyramid volume equals 1/3 area of the base times height, and I just found my area of the base to be 17.5. So I have volume equals 1/3 times 17.5 times my height, which is 7. Now this is where things get a little tricky because I've got decimals, I've got fractions, and I really want to try to avoid that rounding error. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 1/3 times 7, which is going to give me 7/3. And then I'm going to multiply this. I'm actually going to turn 17.5 into a fraction, which would be 35 halves. And I can't cross cancel anywhere. So when I multiply this out, I'm going to end up with 7 times 35, which is 245 over 6. And at this point, I could do that division, and I am going to get a repeating decimal. So I end up with 40.83 repeated. And just the 3 is being repeated. So I do want to make sure that my line is visible, that it's only over the 3, not over the 8. And again, I should add my units. I'm running out of space down there. So 40.83, and we are in cubic inches.